Don't you dare pretend you didn't know what you were doing. My mother shrieked into the phone, so loud I had to pull it away from my ear. We are family, Avery. You don't get to abandon us because your little feelings got bruised. I sat perfectly still in my home office, watching April rain needle the windows of my Burlington townhouse, feeling two equal and opposite forces tearing through me. A numb, Arctic calm and a heat so furious it made my fingertips tingle. An entire mythology I'd built about my family, sacrifice, gratitude, loyalty, collapsed in an instant under the weight of one stupid, sloppy mistake. A misfire. My brother Dylan had meant to text the private thread he shared with our parents. Instead, he fired it straight into the family group chat like a flare in the night. Family ATM just sent another $3,000. His message read. Seconds later, my father. El Mayo. Keep that gravy train rolling. She's too dumb to realize we're using her. Then my mother, casual as a cat stretching in a sunbeam. Just bought those golf clubs your father wanted. Avery would lose it if she knew it's coming out of her med expenses line. Face with tears of joy. My name is Avery Lane. I'm 35. I built a marketing consultancy from nothing and 5 years ago it took off. So I started sending my parents extra money each month because they'd always struggled because retirement is expensive because I thought I was a good daughter. $3,000 month after month, year after year. I told myself it kept them warm, medicated, fed. Now the truth paraded across my screen with confetti emojis. Dylan tried to delete, but the screenshots were already mine. And once the thread cracked open, the flood came. Years of messages. Strategies, scripts, and little performance notes about how to tug the strings on their very own puppet me. Tell her the furnace is out again, use it's so cold mom can see her breath. That line worked last time. Say the cardiologist changed dad's prescription. Bigger numbers equals bigger sympathy. If Avery pushes back, loop Dylan in with we're scared. The rain fattened and blurred the world outside. Inside, everything snapped into high definition. Cruises disguised as emergency medical trips. Car upgrades masquerading as, we can't afford this month's heating. Photos from the country club tucked between we're rationing pills, and we're behind on rent. The doorbell jolted me. 3 sharp knocks followed, urgent, pleading. I checked the peephole. Dylan, hair plastered to his forehead, jacket soaked, eyes broadcasting contrition like a neon sign. I opened the door only far enough to block the threshold with my body. What do you want? Avery, please. Let me come in. I can explain. Explain what? I lifted my phone, the cracked open thread glowing like a wound. Explain how you've all been laughing at me for years? He flinched at the word laughing, then swallowed. It's not what it looks like. Mom and Dad, look, they started it. I just went along so I wouldn't be the bad guy. Oh, so you were just following orders? The words launched before I could reel them back. Remind me how much I've sent, Dylan. He looked at his shoes. A lot. A lot? Try $3,000 a month for 5 years. That's $36,000 a year. Times 5. I let the math hang. He whispered. 180,000. And that's before the extras. Dad's dental surgery? Mom's broken furnace? The surprise car repair? Add another 40 grand on top. I heard my own voice, cold and precise, like a number snapping into place on a lock. While I bought second-hand furniture and skipped vacations to keep you all afloat. They took it too far. I know. His voice fractured. But they're getting older. They're 65, not 95. And Dad's failing heart is strong enough to swing a 9-iron every Saturday with the very expensive clubs I apparently financed. My volume climbed and I didn't care if the neighbors were counting along. You didn't just go along with it, Dylan. You played the chorus. They really do need you now. He pleaded, desperation shredding the edges of his words. They can't afford their mortgage without you. The mortgage on the lakeside condo? I asked sweetly. The one they bought while texting me they were barely making rent in their modest apartment? We stared at each other. Rain ticking on the porch roof like a clock running out. Then I felt it, the click. Some interior switch flipped from Jordan please, Dylan please, Mom please to no. Permanent setting. I think you should leave, I said. Avery. No. I've been Avery please for too long. Now I'm just Avery. And Avery is done. When I shut the door, my hands were trembling so hard I had to press them to my thighs. I sank onto the couch and scrolled through Hell's highlight reel. Just told Avery the roof is leaking. Let's see how much we can squeeze. She's such a sucker for family. Almost feel bad. Almost. Should we start a betting pool on how fast she wires it? I opened my banking portal and watched the evidence line up like headstones. Every month. $3,000 to Martin and Celeste Lane. And the emergencies. $5,000 here, $2,800 there. Always in the nick of time. Always with a sob story attached. Then the investment account I'd set up 3 years ago as a surprise supplement for their 70th birthdays. $1,000 a month quietly, dutifully, because I wanted to do something big, something good. Balance. $42,000 and change. My cursor hovered over close account. Not yet. Not reckless Avery. Not this time. I called Harper. She's my best friend and my attorney, which means she holds both my secrets and my worst ideas. They did what? She exploded when I finished the story. I know, I said, the word coming out flat and hollow. I'm an idiot. No. You're generous. They're shameless. Her voice softened without losing its blade. What do you want to do? I want to be free, I said, surprising myself with the accuracy. I want to stop being the family's debit card. I want to unplug every cord they've sunk into my life. Then we do it step by step, Harper said. I could hear her shifting into counsel mode. The sound of a legal pad flipping open. 1. Document everything you've given: bank statements, wires, texts asking for money, all of it. 2. List every financial entanglement that exists: joint accounts, recurring transfers, insurance, beneficiaries, any automatic payments, any loans you're servicing. 3. Decide your communication strategy. You can ghost, you can notify, or you can demand repayment. Choose a lane and stay in it. I wiped my face with my sleeve, surprised to find tears I didn't remember allowing. Okay. And Avery? Harper added, voice gentler. Whatever story they spin, about illness, homelessness, moral duty, you are not required to fund their lifestyle. Not now, not ever. When we hung up, my phone pinged immediately. My mother again, ratcheting the sirens. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof because of your tantrum. Pick up the phone now. A tiny vicious part of me admired the hustle. The manipulation wasn't even subtle anymore, it was a battering ram. I didn't respond. Instead, I started building my case file. I screen captured every transfer. I exported 5 years of statements and highlighted the $3,000 auto payment like a fluorescent trail through a dark forest. I pasted their own words under each charge: roof leak, country club brunch photos posted same day, dad's dental surgery, receipts for a new driver set within 48 hours, mom's broken furnace, mid-January cruise selfies with finally warm again. Captions. By midnight, the document, Family Financial Support, 2018 to 2023, was 12 dense pages. Hard numbers. Date stamps. They're jokes, my receipts. A ledger of love weaponized against me, and the long paper trail of me letting it happen. I closed the laptop and stared at my reflection in the black screen. I didn't look like a monster. I didn't look like a bad daughter. I looked like a woman who had finally found the off switch. And once you find the off switch, you don't put the machine back on. You pull the plug. You cut the cord. You throw the breaker and weld it shut. Tomorrow, I promised myself. Tomorrow I start. Morning came like a gavel. I woke with the verdict already written. Pull the plug, flip the breakers, salt the earth. By 9:12 a.m., I was on the phone with Vermont Community Bank. Avery Lane speaking, I said when the callback came. The banker introduced himself, Samuel, crisp and polite, and I gave him the account number for the surprise retirement fund I'd been quietly fattening for 3 years. May I ask if there's a problem with the account, Ms. Lane? No problem with the account, I said evenly. Just the intended recipients. After security checks and a few keystrokes, he confirmed the closure and explained the transfer back to my primary would clear in 3 business days. No confetti. No gold star. Just a dull click in the machinery of my life as one cog finally stopped turning. Anything else I can assist you with? Yes, I said. Cancel all recurring transfers to Martin and Celeste Lane. You should see a $3,000 automatic wire scheduled monthly. He found it. I ended it. And just like that, the gravitational field I'd been trapped in for 5 years eased by a measurable degree. Next, health insurance. I braced for red tape. Instead, I got Miguel warm voice, quick mind. I need to remove 2 dependents, I told him. They have their own residence, and I no longer provide more than half of their support. A pause, then a soft exhale, the sound of someone who'd met this kind of family before. We can process a change in dependent status for end of month, he said. They'll receive notice and have 30 days to obtain coverage. That's perfect, I said, hearing the steel in my own voice. Life insurance took 5 minutes and a laptop. I replaced my parents as beneficiaries with a local children's charity I'd quietly supported since grad school. One box unchecked, another checked. A line through an old story, a line under a new one. The last thread I didn't cut, not yet, was Dylan's student loan I'd been paying. $580 a month, 2 years to go. He had played along, yes, but he was also a satellite planet caught in their tides. I stared at the autopay screen, index finger hovering. Mercy or boundary? 2 words duking it out in my chest. My phone pinged. From Dylan. Mom and Dad are freaking out. Dad says his refill got denied at the pharmacy. What did you do? Not I'm sorry. Not I was wrong. Just restore the flow. I typed back. Their consequences aren't my problem anymore. A minute later the call came. I let it drown in the ringtone. Instead I opened a new email, attached the 12-page dossier I'd built last night and wrote, Martin and Celeste. Attached is a complete accounting of the financial support I have provided 2018 to 2023, totaling $221,800, including emergency disbursements. Effective immediately. The supplemental retirement account is closed. The $3,000 monthly transfer is canceled. You will be removed from my health insurance at month's end. Your beneficiary status on my life insurance has been revoked. I have documented your messages detailing how to manipulate me while mocking my generosity. Do not contact me again unless it is to arrange repayment for funds taken under false pretenses. Avery. Send. Block. Breathe. The silence lasted 3 days. 49 hours longer than I expected. Until my doorbell detonated at 8:30 p.m. Through the peephole. My parents and Dylan, saturated with anger and rain. My father's jaw was clenched. The specific red of a man who believes he is owed. My mother's eyes brimmed with weaponized tears. I did not open the door. I called Harper. They're on my porch, I whispered. Do not let them in, she said. If they refuse to leave, call the police. Trespass is a boundary like any other. Feels extreme. What's extreme is letting the people who exploited you walk into your living room and resume the show. The bell rang again. Then fists on wood. Avery, my father bellowed. Open this door. You can't just cut us off without a conversation. I texted Dylan. Leave my property or I'll call the police. He showed them. There was a muted argument, gestures like thrown knives, then retreat, my father shouting. You'll regret this. We're family. Down the path as if the word were a key to any locked door. The emails began at dawn. A novella from my mother, shame grenades and Hallmark quotes. A command from my father to stop this childishness immediately. Pleas from Dylan about mortgage payments. I forwarded each to Harper and replied to none. 2 days later a certified letter arrived. My mother's handwriting looping and theatrical. Inside a speech. We made jokes in poor taste. That's what families do. Your father's heart medicine is $450 per month without your insurance. Our mortgage is due and we can't cover it. We could lose our condo. Do you want us to be homeless? Is that who you are now? Elderly, she called them, as if 65 were a hospital bed and sorrow violin. I almost snorted. Then I did something they never imagined. I verified. I called the pharmacy pretending to be Celeste. What's the out-of-pocket for my husband's heart meds? Let me check. That's $42 for a 30-day supply. $42. I hung up and felt something inside me finally go quiet. Not vindictive, just conclusive. The math for once was simple. That evening Dylan materialized outside my office as I was heading to my car, looking like insomnia had chewed through him. They're falling apart, he blurted. Dad's talking about bankruptcy. That isn't my problem, I said, stepping to pass. How can you be so cold? They're our parents. Are they? Because real parents don't turn their daughter into a punchline and a wallet. Real parents don't plan their vacations in the margins of fake hospital bills. They made mistakes. No. A mistake is missing a birthday call, I said, and my voice cut cleaner than I thought it could. What they did was a campaign. For years. And you sang backup. The condo's going into foreclosure, he said, almost childlike. They can't pay without you. They shouldn't have bought something they couldn't afford, I replied. They told me they were struggling with rent while signing condo closing documents. What about Dad's medication? He tried a last grappling hook. The one that costs $42? He can get a part-time job to cover that. Walmart's hiring. His eyes widened. No more lies, Dylan. He sagged. They're going to move in with me. I paused. That sounds like a you problem, I said gently, and it surprised me that I meant the gentleness. Welcome to consequences. By week 2, I was in a therapist's office finally. Dr. Bennett had kind eyes and a spine you could hang a bridge from. I told her everything, and the shame slipped out of me like dyed water circling a drain. Some days I feel bulletproof, I admitted. Other days I feel like a monster because I heard they canceled their country club membership and felt relief. That makes sense, she said. You're grieving. Not them as people, though maybe that too, but the role you played in the family story. Provider. Rescuer. The good one. Letting that go is loss. And also freedom. But they didn't deserve it. Both can be true, she said. They didn't deserve your support. And you can still grieve the identity you built around giving it. On my way out, my phone rang. Avery, it's Uncle Pete. My father's brother in Oregon. We weren't close. He was the family's roomer in flannel. Your dad called to ask if they can stay with us. Said you cut them off and they're losing the condo. That true? It's complicated, I said, then told him anyway. The screenshots. The scripts. The jokes. The money. Silence, then a dry little laugh. I'm not surprised. He tried similar stunts on me years back. It's why we don't talk. I told him no. Suggested they downsize and live within their means. He hung up. You knew, I said, the betrayal flickering again. Why didn't you warn me? Would you have believed me? He asked. And there it was, the answer I hated and recognized. No, I admitted. Probably not. 2 days later. A text from a number I didn't know. It's me. They're moving into my spare room next week. Selling the condo. Dad's furious. I can't believe this is happening. I watched the dots blink then vanish. 3 days after that. Condos listed. Dad's car got repossessed yesterday. This is getting really bad. My thumb hovered over the keyboard with the ghost of the old me. Do you need help with movers? Groceries? Gas? But another memory arrived right on time. Dylan's text from the secret thread, smug and italic in my brain. Avery just asked how Dad's heart is after the appointment. The appointment for the condition that doesn't exist. I put the phone down. Week 3 brought a Hail Mary through a family friend's email. Bulleted hardships, weaponized pity. A request to hear their apology. I read it once, felt nothing and hit delete. The silence that followed didn't feel empty. It felt like a room after a bad party. Windows open, air moving, music finally off. And then the months unspooled, threaded with new rituals. I ate fruit in the morning without calculating a wire transfer. I bought a sofa that didn't have a history. I started a small fund labeled mine. The guilt didn't vanish overnight. It receded, a tide slowly backing away from a shore it had no right to claim. In its place, something clearer, sturdier. Freedom, yes. But more than that, an identity not held together by other people's emergencies. 6 months later, on a dusky Thursday, I pulled into my driveway after a client trip and saw them on my front steps. Martin and Celeste, smaller than I remembered, the gloss rubbed off. I turned off the engine and sat with my hands on the wheel, pulse steady. Dr. Bennett and I had prepared for this scene. I could go inside. I could listen. I could leave intact. I got out of the car and walked toward the past like it owed me nothing. They looked like a before and after photo with the caption swapped: before, glossy, invincible, country club crisp. After, smaller, scuffed, a little gray at the edges. My mother clutched her purse like a talisman. My father's eyes flicked over my house as if inventorying lost assets. Avery, my mother said, voice thin and eager, already pitching. Please. We just want to talk. You've got 5 minutes, I said, unlocking the door. I let them inside but stayed standing, arms crossed, the host of a show that had been cancelled. They perched together on the edge of my couch, as if intimacy could disguise intention. My mother started with a wobble. We're sorry, she said, and the word came out, dress for a costume party. These last months have been hell. We lost the condo. Your father's car was taken, right off the driveway. We had to move in with Dylan. I'm sleeping on a pullout. My back. My father cut in, voice gravelly with injured authority. My medication costs have been terrible without your insurance. Medicare doesn't cover everything. And the club revoked our membership. People we've known for 20 years won't return calls. They took turns itemizing what the universe had dared to do to them in my absence. I waited for the one thing that never arrived, the words that belonged to me. I let the silence spread its wings when they finally ran out of grievances. Is that it? I asked. We want to make things right, my mother rushed to say. We've suffered. We've learned our lesson. What lesson? I asked. They exchanged a look. My father lifted his chin. That we shouldn't have taken you for granted. Translation: be sneakier next time. Use softer lies. I shook my head. No. You haven't learned anything. My mother's face pinched. We came all this way to apologize. You came all this way to recite what you've lost, I said, steady as a metronome. Not once have you acknowledged what you did to me. Not once have you said, we were cruel. We mocked you. We exploited you. You're not apologizing. You're auditioning for a refund. My father bristled, rage flushing up from his collar like a rash. So you're going to keep punishing us over a few jokes? This isn't punishment, I said quietly. This is protection. I am protecting myself from people who proved repeatedly they don't have my best interests anywhere in the frame. We're your parents, he said, as if the title were a legal deed. And I was your daughter, I replied. Not your personal bank. My mother's eyes glossed over. We need you. That's the problem, I said. You don't need me. You need what I can provide. There's a difference. The room contracted to the size of a held breath. Outside, the evening thinned to violet. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked twice and fell back into its life. Inside, my father tried one last angle, the familiar blunt instrument. After everything we've done for you. I stepped closer to the door, hand on the knob. What exactly is everything, Dad? Be specific. List one thing you did for me in the last 5 years that didn't have a price tag attached, that didn't come with an invoice hidden under a guilt monologue. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Nothing came out. Here's what I'm going to do, I said, and my voice surprised me with its calm. I'm going to wish you well. I'm going to hope you find a way to live within your means, to build a real life instead of a curated one. And I'm going to end this conversation. My mother stood, tears catching the porch light sneaking through the blinds. You'll regret this, she whispered. Family is all you have in the end. Family is supposed to be the people who love you without a ledger, I said. I have that now. Harper. People who show up without a script, who don't confuse my heart for a direct deposit. What you offered was never family. It was a transaction. I opened the door. They hesitated, as if there might be a final puzzle piece they could wedge into place. Then they stepped out into the purple air. My father turned back, face carved into a warning he'd used on me since I was 10. It didn't fit anymore. They walked down the path. Their silhouettes thinned, then disappeared. I shut the door and leaned my forehead against it, listening to the echo of their footsteps recede. I waited for the familiar punch of guilt. It didn't land. I waited for grief to roll in like weather. It didn't. There was a tremor of sadness, yes, the ghost of a story untold the way I wanted it, but beneath it was something that sounded like quiet water over stones. Peace. I made tea. Not as a ritual. As a declaration. I drank it on my sofa, the new one that didn't come with a story, and looked around my life. The corners were mine. The calendar was mine. The money in my accounts was mine. I could feel the structures I'd spent 5 years holding up crumble behind me without crushing me on their way down. The days that followed didn't turn into a montage of roses and promotions. Old reflexes still scratched at the door sometimes, whispers that I was heartless, cold, ungrateful. But when they did, I went back to the document. 12 pages that told the truth without adjectives, the math of what I had given and what I had been given in return. I read their jokes in black and white and remembered who I had finally chosen to be. I kept going to therapy. Dr. Bennett never once gave me a gold star. She gave me a spine and a mirror. "You are building a life that isn't secured by other people's emergencies," she said once, and I wrote it down. I underlined it twice. I taped it inside my closet where only I could see. Harper and I started meeting for Sunday coffee. We rarely talked about them. We talked about a trip in the fall that didn't have to be canceled. About the little fund labeled mine growing like a plant I remembered to water. About a client who didn't haggle and an afternoon nap that didn't need to be earned. Every so often Dylan texted from whatever number he was on now. Updates with the sharp edges sanded off. They sold the condo. They found a cheaper place. Dad got part-time work at a hardware store. Once months later. "I'm sorry." No explanation. No negotiation. Just the words. I stared at them for a long time. I wrote back thank you and left it there. Boundaries could have doors when the house was mine. On the anniversary of the night the thread lit up my phone, I drove to the lake. Not the glossy development where the condo had squatted like a trophy, but the public side with picnic tables and a soda machine that never worked on the first try. The water was the same water that had lapped the expensive dock. I didn't care who paid dues. Didn't care if you lied. I stood on the shore and let the wind tangle my hair. My phone buzzed in my pocket. An email from a new client, a real one. A screenshot from Harper of the ugliest adoption dog I've ever seen with "please say yes." A reminder to transfer money into mine. Life piling in with both elbows. On the way home I stopped at a store and bought something I'd kept telling myself was frivolous. A ridiculous soft throw blanket that served no purpose but being warm and beautiful. I put it on the new sofa and lay under it with my tea and laughed. Not cruelly, not triumphantly. Just with the kind of laugh you make when a storm finally admits it's over, and the silence isn't empty, it's generous. If you asked me to write a moral to this story I wouldn't. Morals are tidy. What I have is messier and more useful. A ledger, a boundary, a door I know how to lock and unlock, and a heart that finally belongs to me. The machine they built out of my kindness? The one with the lever they yanked every time they wanted to hear the coins clatter? It isn't just off. It's dismantled, packed in a box, labeled not for return, and carried to the curb. And for the first time in my adult life I am not standing there to plug it back in.